Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Make It Strange podcast. You are here with Derek and Johnny. Today, we are talking about extinction. That's right. An extinction level event is going to be happening on today's episode of Make It Strange. Everything you've ever known, every body you've ever seen, every animal you've ever laid your eyes upon might be wiped out by the end of today's episode. So thank you for joining us. This is going to be an eventful show. Johnny.
Yes.
Why were you late today? I'm just kidding. I'm just fucking with you. Johnny went to Disneyland yesterday, doing some research there.
Yeah.
You know, they have cryptids available and extinct animals at Disneyland.
Yeah, you got the large humongous. You got the Mr. and Mrs. With the finger pointing. I saw a shirt that said that it was like the Beauty and the Beast logo, and it said Mrs. Beast and Mr. Beast. Or no, Mrs. Beauty and Mr. Beast.
Oh, nice.
And I was like, I wonder if they know about Mr. Beast.
Yeah, Mr. Beast was there.
That was him.
So today's episode, I don't know if you remember this, but you actually suggested today's episode way back when. We compile a list of episodes at the beginning of every quarter. So maybe about 3 months ago, you threw this on the list. What compelled you to pick extinct animals?
I wish I could remember. I think I watched some type of YouTube video like that slightly kind of drew upon this topic, and I thought it'd be interesting to kind of dive deep. And I also realized how strange a lot of these early creatures are, and how little, I wouldn't say how little we know, how little I know about them.
Yeah.
And so I thought it'd be fun to kind of this. I don't know what happened with you, but this research for me felt the most like going back to school and like uncovering stuff for an essay.
Really?
Yeah.
Good on you for picking this. This was a very academic subject for us to be covering. It's kind of outside of our normal wheelhouse. I found in the course of my research that, I don't know, I learned a lot of things that I wasn't quite aware of. Researching extinction made me very depressed. And there were things that I debated whether I should share them on today's episode or not.
Yeah.
And I was like, do I want to depress our audience or do I want to entertain our audience? Thankfully for everybody at home, I selected to entertain you today. So we're not going to be talking about all the scary things happening with our current state of extinction on this planet. Instead, we're going to be looking back hundreds of thousands of years at some of the most unbelievable animals that actually walked on the face of this planet. And to tie it all back into Mega Strange, over the course of my research, I actually found some of the most scientific-based evidence for the existence of Bigfoot.
Oh, yeah. I saw some of that.
I found out basically what kicked off the entire Bigfoot monster hunting craze here in America, and it actually is rooted in paleontology and the study of extinct animals. So we'll be covering all of that today, some of the craziest animals that ever walked on the planet, including the thing that might actually be Bigfoot. And is this thing extinct or not? That is what scientists are debating.
Okay.
It's going to be a crazy episode. It's going to be an informative episode, an educational episode. We thank you all for joining us on today's Mega Strange. Right. Okay, let's get into our conversation about extinct animals. And I would like to start, if you don't mind. Let me ask you, when you think of extinct animal, what is the first thing that comes to your mind?
The first thing that comes to my mind is nothing, actually. Maybe like...
Wow, it draws a blank.
Yeah, extinct animals.
The engine isn't really fired up yet this morning. It's still a little rusty.
Yeah.
I'm just giving you shit. Don't
worry. I'm like, what the fuck?
Well, let me tell you.
Yeah.
For most people, the answer would be the dodo bird.
Okay. Yeah. I see that.
The dodo bird, which is famously, I'm going to say it, the most extinct animal on the planet.
Okay.
The dodo bird has become iconic as a symbol for things that have gone extinct or are just otherwise archaic. But how much do we really know about the dodo bird? Well, check it out. Let me give you a full rundown on the dodo bird and what went wrong with this fucking bird. Did you know that the dodo bird was only located on one island in the entire planet?
Is it the Galapagos?
No, actually. Good guess, though. That's where Darwin went to study, his evolution and develop his theories.
The gears in my brain, like, they broke free and they started turning again.
Nice. No, the dodo bird was located on the island of Mauritius, which is located in the Indian Ocean just east of Madagascar. So for all you DreamWorks animation fans out there, shouts out to the Madagascar series.
Didn't DreamWorks smile?
The dodo bird was first mentioned by Dutch sailors in the year 1598. So relatively recently, About 400 years ago is when we first discovered the dodo bird. But the last widely accepted sighting of the dodo bird was not that long after that point, in the year 1662.
Did we murk the dodo birds?
So it only took about 64 years for humans to wipe the dodo birds off the face of the planet. Yeah, we murked the dodo birds. We gave them a full-on magdom.
Yeah.
Let's go to the close-up cam.
Sure.
Check this out, everybody. The new and improved close-up cam.
Oh, you improved it.
This is what is widely accepted to be the dodo bird. This is a dodo bird skeleton and a recreation of what the dodo bird looks like. You know what I found interesting? There's not a lot of samples of dodo birds. In fact, I think they have one severed head of a dodo bird in a museum in Europe, and this is the only soft tissue sample we have on the planet Earth of the dodo bird. Let me go to this next picture. Keep it here. This next one's pretty cool. Check this out. This is a picture of, where are we going? Dutch sailors hunting the dodo bird. Oh, we're casting some weird shadows here. A lot of people think that the dodo bird was overhunted to extinction by humans, but that's not actually quite what happened. I guess in the whole time that humans occupied this island where the dodo birds lived, the population of human beings never went over 50 people.
Okay.
And so as badass as humans are, I think it would take more than 50 human beings to annihilate an entire race of birds. Instead, the extinction of the dodo bird was more caused by the destruction of their habitat and the introduction of foreign animals to their island. You see, the dodo bird had never seen humans. You can go back to the wide cam if you want. The dodo bird had never seen humans and therefore had no fear of humans. But I guess it had no fear of all the animals humans brought with it too, which were like rats, and I think they brought some pigeons, and I even read somewhere that they introduced a new type of crab to the island.
Hell yeah.
All of these invasive species destroyed the dodo bird habitat, introduced predators to the habitat, and then they were also hunted by humans. So we basically fucked them up every which way you can, 10 ways to Sunday, and within 64 years, the dodo bird was annihilated. It lived on in infamy because it was featured in the story Alice in Wonderland.
Okay.
And I think it captured people's imaginations so much that the dodo bird became famous as a symbol and icon for extinction. And so I wanted to start today's episode with a little recap on the dodo bird.
Sure.
Not the craziest animal that has ever lived, but it's pretty much number one on most famous animals that are no longer on this earth. Well, second to dinosaurs.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's our number one modern extinct animal. By the way, tons of animals are going extinct in the modern age, like left and right. It's almost an epidemic.
Pandas, great white sharks.
Yeah.
A lot, yeah.
In fact, I saw a chart that said like 70% of the world's animals, or like 65% of the world's animals are livestock, mostly cattle and pigs. 30% of the world's animals are human beings, and then only 4% of the world's animals are wildlife. So we've really done a number on this planet.
I assume the livestock is so high just because we breed them way more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we kill everything else.
Yeah.
And we kill those too, and we eat them. Well, I started, but why don't you take the reins here?
Sure.
Because this was your episode idea. And why don't you show us something that's truly unbelievable?
I got something weird for you.
Okay.
So I found in doing my research this shark called the helicoprion.
Nice.
I apologize beforehand. A lot of these scientific terms for animals I have such a hard time saying. But I kind of wrote out phonetically, like I wrote out here like helicoprion.
I saw that. Yeah, very professional.
This shark existed about 28 million years ago and eventually went extinct during the early Triassic period.
I don't know anything about Triassic, Jurassic, Cretaceous.
I don't
or whatever
either.
Periods. So we'll just say a long time ago.
Long time ago.
Anything more than 1 million years ago is just all the same to me.
Yeah.
As far as I'm concerned.
I appreciate scientists that know the difference. In doing my research, I just realized how fucking cool paleontology is. And I was like, I wish I was smart enough to kind of dive into this world.
You could be. I realized how cool paleontology was as well.
But here's a... I'm gonna try
All right, we're gonna go to the close-up camera here. Check this out. Look how good that is. What are we looking at here?
This is a fossil that was discovered in Russia, and it confused scientists a bunch because people assumed it was a shelled ammonite. Have you ever heard of the shelled ammonite?
No.
I wish I had a photo of it. It's kind of like a giant squid that was in a shell like this.
Okay.
Here, I can cut back. So scientists found that fossil and they didn't really understand what it was. They thought it was a shelled ammonite.
Mm-hmm.
And then in doing more research, they realized that, let me cut back to it. This was teeth.
What?
Yeah. So they kind of put two and two together and they realized that those were shark teeth.
Okay.
And it confused the ever-living hell out of the scientists. So they had to kind of figure out, piece together what this shark would look like.
Yeah, I don't understand. This is like a row, a spiral.
It's circular, yeah.
It's what are these? A spiral row of teeth?
So here was the first.
What does your mouth even look like?
So this is the first rendition of
your mouth has got to look like a vacuum butthole that just sucks everything up in the middle and then eats it from the outside in.
I think you'll start to realize what this is as I show you pictures. This is kind of the first. Here, I'll hand you a photo here if you want to light it up.
What the fuck?
This is the first rendition that scientists decided.
Yo, scientists are stupid.
Yeah, they were like, maybe it was like this.
Yo, you're dumb.
So that was kind of the agreed upon thing for a while, and this was like early, really early. I wish
How the fuck are these scientists thinking you can eat with a mouth like this?
Yeah, for real. Well, wait till you see how they actually figured out. But,
well, I still think booty mouth.
Booty mouth.
You know, black hole full of teeth.
But yeah, the helicoprion was a predator whose teeth did not shed, but instead grew into a wheel-like pattern.
Okay.
Sometimes scientists have dubbed this creature the buzzsaw killer.
Well, what did it really look like? Do we know?
Yes. Like I said, there's been some debate, but over the years, scientists have kind of tried to. Well, okay, here's the second rendition. You want to see the second rendition?
Yeah.
We're getting a little weirder here. But some thought this.
Shut the fuck up.
Some thought that. Sorry, these pictures printed out very strangely.
Yeah, they're not censored, but that's okay.
But yeah, some thought there's been a lot of debate over whether it goes up, it goes down, or if it curves like that. And it's hard for these scientists because all they have is that fossil, and they kind of have to use like a lot of what we see with modern sharks to kind of decipher.
Yeah.
But here is this is kind of the agreed upon current version of this shark.
I'm sure this one will make sense.
This one will fuck your day up.
What?
So scientists believe that in its mouth it has a cavity where it's like a buzzsaw. It's circular in their mouth. And that's how it would eat its prey.
You know what? I think scientists are
dumb.
Crock of shit. I think science sucks. These guys don't know what they're just guessing. They're doing guess and check.
For real. I mean, that's all you can really do with these old fossils is kind of guess and check.
But there's no way to check it. They're just making it up and be like, yeah, that looks the coolest.
Yeah. In my research later down the line, I definitely have some stuff where it's like people thought an animal was a certain way for like 100 years.
Yeah.
And then they realized it was wrong.
Yeah. to that note, I saw a video recently that suggested that perhaps our idea of the Tyrannosaurus Rex's arms are wrong. Have you heard of this?
No.
So you know that famously the T-Rex has tiny arms, and there's the joke like, what could this T-Rex do? You ever seen the image of the T-Rex trying to shoot the sniper rifle?
Yeah. That's awesome.
Well, this person was arguing that the T-Rex arms do look stupid if they're pointed forward, but if you turned them and reversed them like this, they look very similar to ostrich wings.
Yeah.
Featherless ostrich wings. And we kind of know that dinosaurs evolved into birds, that modern day birds are the descendants of dinosaurs.
100%.
So it might make sense that the T-Rex arms are actually facing the wrong way. That when paleontologists discovered the bones in the 1800s, they didn't know what they were looking at. And they just said like, well, a human arm would go like this, not thinking that a bird arm would be flipped around backwards and that the T-Rex might actually have feathered wings.
I was about to say, I could see in the future us learning that the T-Rex was just a giant flightless bird.
Yeah.
That would be fucking awesome.
Well, it pretty much is. That was cool. That was awesome.
Hell yeah.
Well, may I take us out of the ocean and bring us back onto the terrestrial plane?
You got it.
Okay, I want to talk about an animal that has been long dead, and thank goodness, because you wouldn't know what the fuck to do if you ever came across a glyptodon. Go to the close-up camera. This, ladies and gentlemen, and everybody watching at home, let me see if I can frame this up for you here, is
I like the slow pan.
the glyptodon. The name is Greek for grooved or carved tooth.
Carved tooth.
Yo, look at old carved tooth coming down the road.
I don't want to give that. I don't want to say any silly names to that guy. He's gonna chomp my fucking arm off.
Yeah, carved tooth here, the glyptodon, is an extinct, heavily armored mammal, which is considered, that's a mammal. It's considered to be an ancient relative of the armadillo.
Yeah.
This thing was roughly the size of a Volkswagen Beetle. This is a car. You could get inside of it, drive it around. You know, if anybody killed the glyptodon, they could just live inside of it like
they'd have like a dome,
a beach bum living in your Beetle on the ocean.
Hell yeah, they have a little flower inside of it.
Yeah, they, as you can see from the picture, as you can see from the picture, they had a rounded, bony shell with squat limbs, and it kind of looked like a giant turtle.
Yeah,
but paleontologists, anthropologists, and scientists say that this is just an example of a phenomenon where two completely unrelated lineages of animals take a similar form. The glyptodon was said to be between 1,700 and 1,900 pounds. So this is a 2-ton bug you're looking at here.
I wonder if it could like roll into a ball and crush you.
Wouldn't that be awesome?
Yeah,
we don't know.
Big enough.
Yeah, and the glyptodon was said to have lived in North America. So right here in your own backyard. When you're driving down the highway heading to Walmart, just think about 500,000 years ago, you were probably on the same trail as the glyptodon.
Hell yeah.
Let me keep it going.
Sure.
I found that all kinds of things have gone extinct. Some of them you care more, and some of them you care about less. This next one actually bummed me out. This is an extinct breed of dog.
Oh no.
This is known as the hair Indian dog.
Okay.
This is an extinct domesticated canine that comes originally from northern Canada and was bred by the hair Indian tribe to be used in hunting.
Wow.
You can see that this dog has like a distinctive, almost zebra stripe pattern on its fur. And it has this cute little stubby face.
Yeah.
The hair Indian dog was a domesticated form of northern coyote that was mixed with other dogs. But as time went on, I found out that there's hundreds of breeds of dogs that are extinct, which is really sad. And some of them went extinct so recently that we have like photos and videos of them, but you just can't get them anymore.
Shit.
And it usually just comes down to the fact that people, the dogs are not popular, and so breeders stop breeding them and they go away.
That's heinous.
Yeah. That's kind of what happened with the hair Indian dog. It was used for hunting, but as time went on, they didn't need it to help with hunting, and their hunting methods changed. So they just stopped breeding and taking care of the dog, and eventually it disappeared from our planet. I have more, but why don't you take over?
Okay, I do have an animal that existed around the same time as that armadillo you showed. This is called the terror bird. Retake. This is called the terror bird. I feel like I had marbles in my mouth for a second. All right, I'm gonna go slow on the scientific name here. For us, Roshidae. For us, Roshidae.
Forest. Yeah.
For us, Roshidae.
Rossidae.
This is an extinct clade
Rockidae.
of large carnivorous flightless birds, similar to like we were talking with the T-Rex. This was one of the largest species of apex predators in South America during the Cenozoic era. So
No idea when that was.
I think that was right after the dinosaurs.
It was over 1 million years ago. I don't care.
So
Sometime.
this is where for me it kind of got very like I felt like I was doing a research paper because I just kept finding this so interesting. I'll start showing photos in a second here. About 145 million years ago, when South America started to dislocate from Africa, they were kind of connected. There's like a name for it. I didn't write it down.
Pangea.
Yeah, well, everything together was Pangea, but then like as they started breaking away, it became like different things.
Oh, okay.
Yes. Anyway, so South America dislocated from Africa, and since South America became isolated as an island continent, the terror bird was able to rise as the apex predator after the extinction of the dinosaurs. Because these fools were built to kill. So this is kind of a species breakdown here. The one I'm talking about, it should be like this one, I think.
The second biggest one?
Yeah.
Second from the bottom. It's big.
Yeah, they're like the largest one, Titanus, is like 10 feet tall.
Wow. These things look like velociraptors.
Yeah, I think they're kind of a relative of the velociraptor.
Look at his little arms. Oh, they actually point forward. Ooh. Maybe the T-Rex arms do point forward. Hey, it was just a video I saw. It's not my theory.
So yeah, I'll kind of get into a description here. They had huge beaks with razor sharp hooks at the end. And they would slam their heads into their prey to stab them. So imagine a giant bird coming up and just slamming its head into you. And you're like,
Wow. Jesus. Yeah, beats you like a horse.
Headbutts
Headbutts you to death.
Their beaks were strong enough to crush bone as well.
Nice.
Some scientists believe they would use their feet a lot as well. Just breaking bones apart with their claws, or picking up their prey and slamming them into the ground. Apparently, the most recent living relative of the terror bird, the Seri-Emas from South America, still does that to this day. So they're able to surmise that, like, oh, this relative still kind of kills in the same way, which is extremely terrifying to me. But
yeah, you know, like a little mini terror bird. It's like in Tremors 2 when they had smaller tremors that were just as evil, but newer and more modern.
Oh.
You're familiar with the Tremors movie series, right?
No, I've never seen Tremors.
You never seen Tremors?
Never saw Tremors.
Kevin Bacon hunting giant worms in the desert?
That sounds awesome.
Tremors is amazing.
I know the actor just died from those movies, I think. I forget his name.
Oh, the worms got him.
Dude, I have a worm for you later.
Okay.
Anyway, so I learned that these animals made their way to America. I didn't know about this. I probably should have learned this in school, but I didn't pay attention. About 5 million years ago, when the Isthmus of Panama formed, which is connecting South America to North America, the little kind of island formation, the terror bird was able to migrate to America. Scientists believe that the connecting of these two continents caused the largest exchange of animal life ever. Known today as the Great American Biotic Interchange, which I think is how your guy got.
Scientists have a knack for naming stuff.
Stupid.
Yeah, they just make it sound so fascinating. The Great Biotic Animal Interchange.
They should have just called it like the Great Flip. The Great Animal Flip Flop.
I would have called it the Fauna Fuck Fest.
Fauna Fuck Fest. There we go.
The triple F.
The triple F.
I would have called it the...
We'd have one of those now.
The Great Animal Bang Out.
Dude.
That's what I would have called it. The GABO. The Gabbo.
The Gabbo. That sounds like a music festival.
Yeah.
but one species of terror bird that made it to North America was Titanus, which on here is the
big one.
The big one. I have another photo of Titanus in relation to humans.
Wow, look at that.
That motherfucker would fuck your day up.
I like the face on Titanus. It's very cartoony.
Yeah, me too. This is kind of why I want to cover it, because it's so silly looking, but so evil at the same time. So yeah, Titanus made its way to America. They're about 10 feet tall. But it wasn't easy for the terror bird. This is the first time the species had any competition. Usually they just had to fight those sloths or those armadillos and some type of like version of the sloth. But in America, there were saber-toothed cats, modern ancestors of the modern wolf, which those two animals gave it kind of a run for its money because they're like extremely fast and able to kind of get around its beak. Then around 2 million years ago, during the Ice Age, the terror bird sadly went extinct. Only a few fossils of these creatures exist, one being from Texas and the other being from Florida. So I just thought it was very interesting that this animal was able to make its way from South America to Texas.
I wish I could have been there way back then, before the terror birds went extinct, to see the awesome battles between the herd of terror birds and the pack of wolves in ancient North America, circling each other up. The terror birds are trying to headbutt the wolves, latching at them with that claw beak. The wolves, calling in their backup. Circle the terror birds. Engage. I kind of think it's like the sharks versus the cats in West Side Story. It's the sharks versus the T-birds. Yeah, exactly.
From Greece. Yeah.
Something. Yeah. It's the guys from Greece versus the guys from West Side Story. That's the terror birds versus the wolves.
Well, the guys on Greece, even though they're both of them are in high school, they got like 20 years on the guys from West Side Story.
All right. Well, I got something that could give the terror birds a run for their money. Yeah, because the thing I'm about to show you had no known predators, which means if this was on the same land as a terror bird, this thing probably hunted the terror birds.
Okay.
I would like to introduce you to a little critter known as Arthropleura, aka, go to the close-up camera, jointed ribs.
That's a long bug.
The largest land invertebrate of all time. What you're looking at here is a genus of extinct millipede arthropod.
Oh, God.
This lived in North America and Europe. This thing was an 8-foot-long millipede. It would live in the forests, I'm going to say the jungles of North America and Europe. And this thing was an apex predator itself. It had no known predators, which means nothing killed this thing. This thing did the killing. There are so many photos and illustrations online of this. People have recreated this to scale with statues out in the forest. So like you can go to a natural history museum and you just see like a giant millipede that's like hanging over a man.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah. This bug is, to me, like represents in my mind what I think of when I imagine like dinosaur times. Like, there were dinosaurs, but there were also giant 8-foot-long centipedes and millipedes and massive bugs. There's a theory.
I like it.
So when I was researching this, let's go back to the close-up cam. I think this is such a good photo of this thing. This is a computer-generated rendition of it. So there were some that made this thing look more frightening, like it would coil up and like attack you.
Yeah.
Close-ups of its slobbering mouth. But I like this picture because it just looks like a bug.
Yeah.
Just
that.
chilling.
I look like I could stomp that fucker out.
This thing had no known predators. This thing was 8 feet long. Dude.
Oh my God.
You imagine trying to step on an 8-foot. Hey, Johnny, imagine trying to step on an 8-foot-long snake.
Yeah, no.
What's going to happen? You just stomp it out. Now imagine that snake is armor plated and 2 feet wide. It has 100 legs. Yeah, you'd be fucking dead.
I don't want to imagine any of that.
You'd be fucking dead.
Oh, it probably has so many legs. I hate it.
Why? Okay, so this bug evolved and its descendants are still on the planet today.
Yeah.
we can go to the main camp, but they're 2 inches long. They're 2 inches. They went
what
from,
happened?
They went from 8 feet down so you could hold them in the palm of your hand, crush them with a shoe.
Yeah, hell yeah.
What happened? Yeah, that's how we like it. Well, apparently this is due to the Earth's atmosphere. And I was reading that there was a different level of oxygen pressure in our atmosphere.
Okay.
I don't know how it works. I'm not a scientist, but I guess it has to do with the gases that we breathe in affect the size that our bodies will grow to. And as the Earth over millions of years cooled down and the composition of the atmosphere changed, the animals adapted to be smaller, much smaller.
This makes sense to me because imagine being that big and it being hard to kind of like function. Your ancestors that are smaller and able to kind of breathe in the atmosphere would flourish more. And then through time, they would just get smaller and smaller.
Yes. There's another theory that the big animals had to travel farther to find their food. But as time went on and the animals kind of settled into their habitats where the food was readily available, they no longer had to travel for food. And their evolution started focusing on camouflaging and just staying in the area that you're currently in.
Okay.
And so being smaller and harder to find and easier to hide became an asset. So all of these things combined to shrink these animals down. But I kind of miss the idea of a world where a millipede could grow to the size of 8 feet because there's special gas in the air that makes everything gigermantis. Yes, that's a word I just made up. I want to be gigermantis someday. How big would I be if I breathed that atmosphere?
I feel you.
I'd probably be like 50 feet tall.
We just scaled everything up and they were still small to us. I'm down.
Hey, maybe giants were real. Maybe there were some pre-humans back then breathing this giant gas. If the millipedes were 8 feet long, how big were the proto-humans? I'm afraid to ask. Speaking of giant animals, I'm going to keep it going. We're going to keep it on me, and I'm going to go straight to this next one. The Dinosuchus. Yeah, I'm going to say it again. The Dinosuchus, which
it's getting sucked.
Translates into
The dino is getting sucked.
Terrible crocodile.
Oh, yeah. I kind of read a little bit about this guy.
Look at this motherfucker right here. That's a Dinosuchus eating a brontosaurus.
That's fucking scary.
The Dinosuchus is an extinct genus of, I love this word, alligatoroid crocodilian. Alligatoroid crocodilian.
I wish I pulled it for you, but I literally found a 90s playing card about this animal.
Really?
Yeah, like there was a extinct animal trading card game.
Nice.
And they made this thing look like a magic card.
Well, the Dinosuchus lived about 75 million years ago and was related to our modern alligator. The first remains of the Dinosuchus, I'm always proud when it comes from our backyard. The first remains of the Dinosuchus were discovered in the United States, specifically North Carolina, in the 1850s. Now, I love imagining a time. It's the Wild West.
Yeah.
Electricity is available, but there's some places where it's not widely available. We don't have modern medicine, I just like setting it Wild West times, right? And you're a paleontologist and you're just digging. And for the first time in human history, you discover a giant crocodile skull, the size of a Wells Fargo wagon. What do you make out of that? What do you think of the world that you live in when you're the first person to discover this thing and you're just like some prospector looking for gold?
I think I would literally think that I dug up the skull of a demon.
Yeah, or a dragon or something. We don't have a lot of bones for the Dinosuchus, but they did find a couple of skulls and were able to do a recreation of what the animal looked like and calculated its size to be huge. So the Dinosuchus is an American classic.
American classic.
Yes. And when you see a modern alligator down there in Florida, just consider yourself lucky that you weren't down there 75 million years ago when they were eating brontosauruses off the edge of the river for a snack.
Did you ever see that footage of the guy golfing and he gets into a fight with an alligator?
No.
That's a good time. Maybe I'll put that in here.
What happens in the video?
He just starts biting his arm. He tries to shoo him away and it just bites him. He's like, get the fuck
The
out.
alligator bites
Yeah,
the golfer?
yeah,
Oh, that's what you don't want. All right, what do you got for us?
Okay. This might be the favorite thing that I've discovered. Did you know worms used to be able to walk?
No.
Imagine a little walking worm.
I can't. I don't. Does he like bounce like on a pogo stick? I don't get it.
So that's the thing. Scientists have been debating about this for a long time. Here, I'll kind of give you a more modern image of the walking worm.
What the fuck?
So here you go. The walking worm, also known as hallucigenia, because the scientists who discovered it thought it looked like it came from a dream.
Hallucigenia.
So yeah, scientists
They were tripping on some good stuff when they came up with this worm.
Yeah, dude, for real. I bet never mind. Scientists have studied the thumb-sized worm for about 50 years now. And then
the size of a thumb.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's kind of small, but it walked around. I think maybe in the ocean too, judging from this.
So it swam around.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, there's I don't know if you can see it in the picture, but
like weird.
There's like another one swimming up here.
Yeah.
In the shadows of these jellyfish whales.
Dude, jellyfish whale sounds scary too. So yeah, scientists have been studying these animals for about 50 years, and they just only recently discovered which side of it is the head.
Oh no, they were looking at its ass for 50 years.
So in 1977, there was a British paleontologist named Simon Conway Morris. He came across, scientists have discovered a fossil, and they kind of were like, whatever about it. They didn't really want to dig too deep into it. And they kind of figured out a couple things. I have the fossil here. This is the fossil for the walking worm. They discovered this fossil, but it wasn't until the 70s where Simon Conway Morris decided that this was all wrong. What everyone had kind of surmised about this. This fossil also was discovered in the Canadian Rockies about 66 years before 1977. So yeah, people found this and they kind of didn't know which side was the head or not. But it wasn't until Conway decided to dig deeper into this fossil where he realized that, see those little like pointed areas? He realized that there were like V shapes and not just like people thought they were just like a single stick.
Okay.
But he was able to dig deeper into the fossil and realized that they were like V shaped, which caused him to assume that was the legs of the creature. So they assumed he kind of walked like this. And they were like, this is the head. And it walked on these little stilts. And then this is like, I don't know, it's ass or something.
Okay. It's eyeball.
Yeah.
It's nose.
So yeah, for a while, modern scientists were like, yep, that's it. It walks on stilts. It's a little scary walking worm. Until scientists did even more research. And they realized that they were wrong for about 40 years. And what they realized, here, I'm going to try to, I watched a video about this and the guy was just like, this is what we realized. He had this photo. I'm going to try to line up here. He's like, what we realized was this. We had it upside down. So for, about 40 years, scientists believed or had this all wrong. They didn't realize that the worm was actually the other way. And it wasn't walking on the stilts. Those were kind of a protecting agent, like something to avoid predators. But then since they realized that it is that way, they were able to figure out where the head is. They're able to make a scientific 3D model, which I have of it. And this is the most correct perception of the walking worm. Here, I'll show it to you real quick.
All right, look at this.
People think that this is what it was like.
It's kind of cute, actually.
Right? It looks like a Pokemon. I like them. I like the walking worm.
They say this thing is the size of a thumb, but that looks like it could be the size of a building.
Yeah, I just realized that as well. I thought it was way bigger. So So that's pretty much about it about the walking worm, aka the hallucigenia. I love it. I wish it still existed. Take it away, Derek.
It's crazy, like that we can have a worm that walks, but it's the size of a thumb, and yet we have a centipede that is 8 feet long. It makes no sense. Some things are big, some things are small. Well, thank you for sharing about the hallucigenia. It does kind of move in a dreamlike state.
Right?
Okay. Everything we've done so far has basically been a warm-up. So thank you for the preamble. The rest of the show is going to be dedicated to one long story. And then the next animal I want to talk about is going to take us on a journey.
Okay.
Okay?
I have some like fake animals at the end too. We want to.
Great. I want to talk about something called, boy, your stomach is rumbling loud. Are you all right over there?
I don't think anyone could hear it until you gave attention to it.
Go back in the tape. There's at least 3 rumbles in this episode. They turn up your bass. You can definitely hear it. We need to get you some Pepto in a second.
Oh, I'm just hungry.
Oh, okay, good. Well, I want to talk about something called Gigantopithecus.
Okay.
Gigantopithecus. Gigantopithecus is an ancient giant ape. And we know that Gigantopithecus exists because in 1935, they discovered 2 or 3 molar teeth.
Okay.
And to this day, all we have ever discovered of Gigantopithecus are a few teeth. In fact, I think that in total, there are 4 mandible samples, and those are the only currently known examples of the existence of Gigantopithecus. But these teeth are so big, they're like the size of quarters.
Ew.
And just based on the size of these teeth, these molars are the largest known for any ape that has ever existed in the history of the world. And just based on the size of these teeth, they've calculated the size of the animal, how big you would have to be to have teeth like this. And they say that Gigantopithecus was an ape that was over 8 feet tall and weighed almost 1,000 pounds. It kind of looks like an orangutan, and I have a reconstruction here of what Gigantopithecus may have looked like.
Whoa.
Compared, standing next to a typical human man.
That guy looks so bored
Yeah.
to be standing next to that thing.
So that's just a guy chilling, and he
Yeah,
comes
he's
up to
chilling.
about the belly button of Gigantopithecus. And there it is right there. That thing's looking rad. So we know that this thing exists. I think in total they have found about 1,000 teeth in addition to the 4 mandibles.
Okay.
What happened to all the other bones from Gigantopithecus? It says that other skeletal elements, scientists have concluded, were likely consumed by porcupines before they could fossilize.
Okay.
So all these great apes died a long time ago, and then ancient porcupines came and ate all their bones, and the only thing that was left by the porcupines was the teeth and literally 4 jaws.
Do porcupines still eat bone?
I don't know. I didn't know that porcupines consumed bones.
Yeah, me too.
That's kind of scary.
I guess it makes sense for their quills. I don't know. I'm just talking on my ass.
Yeah. Okay. Now I want to take you on a journey. I want to tell you a story.
Okay. I'm ready.
In 1953, there was a successful expedition for the first time ever to reach the summit of Mount Everest.
Okay.
That happened for the first time
Yeah.
in 1953. 7 years later, in 1960, a zoologist named Vladimir Chernesky received some photos from 2 of the mountaineers who had gone on that journey to the top of Mount Everest.
Okay.
Their names were Michael Phelps Ward and Eric Earl Shipton. Michael Phelps Ward was an English surgeon, and he was the expedition doctor on that 1953 first ascent of Mount Everest. And Eric Earl Shipton was an English Himalayan mountaineer who was about 20 years older than Michael and was also helping on the expedition. They had said that 2 years before the trip to the top of Mount Everest, on a separate mountaineering trip in the Himalayas, they came across a set of footprints in the snow.
Okay.
And they photographed them. And they sent them to this zoologist named Vladimir Chernetsky. And in 1960, he took these footprints and he wrote an article about them in Nature magazine, which is a serious scientific magazine. And it was basically asking what animal made these footprints in the snow. Nobody could say.
Okay.
Scientists could not say what animal made those footprints in the snow. And after analyzing those footprints, Chernetsky concluded that it must have been left by an animal similar to Gigantopithecus. And this, in 1960, was the basis for the idea that there might be an ancient giant ape, a race of them, living in the Himalayas.
What? Oh.
These later came to be known as Yetis.
I was just about to say.
This came to be known to the world as Yetis. This report in 1960 spurred a lot of scientific attention for a little while.
Yeah.
And several other authors and scientists published articles in Nature and Science magazine as they investigated what the source of these footprints could have been. And this also kind of inspired just your average people all around the world, and especially in America, to get interested in the idea of cryptozoology. There might be animals or monsters or whatever that are out there that we don't know about, that science has yet to discover. And this monster hunting craze kind of exploded in the 60s about the Yeti in the Himalayas and these stories of ape-like men here in America that we had kind of anecdotally heard about. It could have been Bigfoot.
Yeah.
And they think like this might be real. A lot of people didn't believe this, kind of blew it off, but there was one scientist who dedicated attention to it. And I think you're going to talk about this guy later on in this episode.
Oh.
A scientist named Grover Krantz.
No, I don't have Grover Krantz.
Somebody else.
I've Dougal Dixon. Is that what you're talking about?
Okay, never mind.
Okay.
I know you're going to talk about evolution. Evolution of man.
Yeah.
Grover Krantz was really into that as well.
Okay.
All right. Well, then they might be contemporaries of each other. Grover Krantz was a professor at the University of Washington, where he taught from 1968 to 1998. So he taught for 30 years. Just to give you some background on Grover Krantz, he was an anthropologist, and he was a popular professor at the school, but he was known for giving ridiculously hard tests. But despite this, students liked him. He would often sit with students at lunch and discuss anthropology, unified field theory, physics, military history, and current events. So he was an intelligent guy who was like buddy-buddy with the students.
He kind of sounds like Indiana Jones, when he's a teacher.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. You're right. Krantz's specialty as an anthropologist included all aspects of human evolution. He had written some influential papers about the evolution of primates and had done extensive research into Homo erectus.
Okay.
And was one of the leading American anthropologists just about like human evolution, primate evolution, and things of that sorts. Okay, so as this Bigfoot craze was sweeping across America, Krantz was one of the only actual scientists to look into it.
Okay.
And he was very skeptical at first at the existence of Bigfoot. Frankly, he didn't believe it. But as he started to investigate it more, his opinion changed. And by the end of his career, he was convinced that Bigfoot, or as he coined the term, Sasquatch, was real.
Do you know where that term comes from, or is it just okay?
Krantz came up with that term Sasquatch, and it is an Anglicization, an English version of the Halkomelin word meaning wild man, which is the language of the native people of British Columbia.
Okay.
Sasquatch. In 1985, Grover Krantz tried to formally have the Bigfoot named by the International Society of Cryptozoology and the International Commission of Zoological Nomenclature. He wanted to have it recognized as a real animal.
Yeah.
Under the name Gigantopithecus blacki, cousin of the Gigantopithecus that was already accepted.
Okay.
In his mind, he believed that the Bigfoot sightings were due to small pockets of surviving Gigantopithecus that had progenited a population in the Americas after having migrated across the Bering Land Bridge into North America out of Africa, which is the same way humans were theorized to come to America themselves. He thinks that the Gigantopithecus predates humans in their migration to North America. Gigantopithecus, by the way, is accepted by all scientists to have lived alongside human beings, though it is thought that they went extinct about 100,000 years ago in Eastern Asia. So he says that they survived, a small pocket of them survived the extinction in Eastern Asia, made their way across the Bering Strait into America, where they survive to this day. He presented this to the International Commission of Zoological Nomenclature, but they rejected his theory because they said that he was lacking a proper holotype. What is a holotype, you're asking? A holotype is an example of an animal that you need to present to the Zoological Society for them to give the animal a name. An example of a holotype, if you have discovered a new type of butterfly, you will bring in a butterfly pinned to a board and give that to the museum, and they will keep that on their records. This is the butterfly. But you don't need to have a perfect specimen. A lot of times, dinosaurs are classified and named off of like a leg bone fossil. They'll just find one leg bone. Gigantopithecus, they have like 4 teeth. Yeah. And that is the holotype. They said that Grover Krantz failed to present a proper holotype. He disagrees. He says he did present a proper holotype. What was the holotype? I'll tell you.
I have some guesses.
Yeah. After years of skepticism, first of all, Grover Krantz once looked at that famous video of Bigfoot walking through the woods, the 1968 video. He said it looked like a fake to him. He's like, it looks like a gorilla, somebody wearing a gorilla suit to me.
100%.
And after years of skepticism, he finally became convinced that Bigfoot was real after he was presented with something called the Cripplefoot plaster cast.
Heard about that.
You have?
Yeah.
The Cripplefoot plaster cast is a cast of a footprint that was left in the snow in Bossburg, Washington, and it was taken in December of 1969. I have a picture of a replica of the Cripplefoot cast right here. Ooh, there we go. That is the footprint with an outline of what scientists say the bone structure would look like inside. This isn't the actual cast. This thing has actually become so famous that they sell replications of it on eBay.
I've seen those,
and this is a eBay replication.
Okay.
Okay, the Cripplefoot tracks were left in the snow, and what is interesting about these is they show they've been identified to show some sort of primate that has clubfoot. This has been identified. If we can go back to it,
Sure.
this the animal that left this was suffering from clubfoot. Dr. Krantz took this sample to one of the leading primatologists in the world, a man named John Russell Napier, who was considered to be the leading authority on primate taxonomy when he was alive. And Dr. Napier concluded that this footprint was made by something, quote, "It was left not from some dead object with ridges on it, but it comes from a living object able to spread its toes." This is the leading professor of primate primate taxonomy said
Okay.
that this footprint appears to have been left by a living animal that is able to spread its toes. But not only that, the footprint appeared to have fingerprints in it.
Oh.
And Dr. Krantz sent samples of these fingerprints to both the FBI and Scotland Yard.
Okay.
The FBI ignored him.
No.
But Scotland Yard investigated the footprints, the fingerprints, and concluded that they were probably real. Quote,
Probably.
Scotland Yard said these are probably real.
That's hilarious.
They could be fake, but they're probably real. Based on Dr. John Napier's analysis of the footprint being left by a living animal, the diagnosis that this is an ape that suffers from clubfoot, the endorsement by Scotland Yard saying the prints that are recorded in this casting are probably real, Dr. Krantz was convinced that this footprint was left by an actual animal.
Let's go.
He constructed a biomechanical model of the Cripplefoot cast and calculated, by a process of calculating the distance, the leverage, the weight dynamics, the distribution, and comparing the data of the track's heel, ankle, and toe base, Krantz concluded that the footprint had been left by an animal that was 8 feet tall and weighed roughly 800 pounds. Dr. Krantz also said that if this casting was a hoax, that the person who created it would require extensive knowledge of both human and primate anatomy due to the fact that this casting shows an animal that is missing an opposable thumb and is missing the related muscle and bone structures that would accompany an opposable thumb. So basically, they're like, he said, only an expert would know that if you had a non-opposable thumb, the hand would be constructed or the foot would be constructed in such a way as this print. So he's like, if this is a hoax, you're a fucking expert on primate anatomy.
So he's saying he's the one who could have faked it?
He could have faked it, but he didn't because we know where the print came from. There's an actual, I think a farmer collected the printing. This is what Grover Krantz presented as his holotype. It was the Cripplefoot casting. The International Zoological Society rejected him and kind of said, this is bullshit, and you have accepted false evidence into your claim.
It would have been crazy if they accepted it, because then it would just been like fact that Bigfoot existed or exists.
They rejected his holotype, but they could not refute his studies.
Yeah.
They could not say that John Napier was wrong in his analysis, that this was left by a living thing. They couldn't say that Scotland Yard was wrong when they said the fingerprints on the plaster casting were real. They just said, we don't accept this casting as a proper holotype.
Understandable. They're usually accepting like specimens or bones and stuff. I think it sets a weird precedent to accept a casting
Yeah.
of a footprint.
Grover Krantz died in 2002.
Oh,
And
wow.
So he is no longer with us. But while he was alive, he was the leading Bigfoot researcher in America. He is a world-renowned scientist, and many of his papers are highly influential. He is very well respected in the scientific community. He believed that Bigfoot existed. A lot of people disagreed with him.
Yeah.
A lot of people disagreed with him, but they still respected him. Interestingly enough, when Grover Krantz died on Valentine's Day, 2002, he passed away of pancreatic cancer. He was not buried.
Valentine's Day, damn.
There was no funeral, and he was not buried.
Excuse me?
Yes. Instead, due to his own final request, his body was shipped to the University of Tennessee Anthropological Research Facility, where scientists study human decay rates to aid in forensic investigations. And they studied his body as it decayed.
He was probably stoked.
His skeleton in 2003, a year later, was sent to the Smithsonian National Museum of Natural History and was laid to rest in a green cabinet alongside the bones of his 3 favorite Irish wolfhounds, Clyde, Icky, and Yahoo.
Whoa. Is he still there?
As per his last request.
Damn.
His remains were put in a museum. In 2009, Grover Krantz's skeleton was painstakingly articulated, along with the skeleton of one of his dogs, and included on display in the Smithsonian's Written in Bone Forensic Files of the 17th Century exhibition at the National Museum of Natural History. Let's go to the close-up camera.
Sure.
This is Grover Krantz, ladies and gentlemen. This is where the good doctor is today.
He's got a cool skeleton.
This is the guy.
That's wild.
You are looking at Grover Krantz.
How do you do this? Because I want to do this.
This is the man who suggested that Bigfoot is real. By the way, when he went to the Zoological Nomenclature Society, he proposed a new name because they rejected Gigantopithecus blacki because that was already a cousin of the original Gigantopithecus. So he changed it to Gigantopithecus canadianitis, which would be the Canadian version of it. I love that in my research of this guy, in my research of extinct animals, I come across a doctor who argued that one of these extinct animals was still alive and is Bigfoot. And then in researching that guy, I found a picture of his actual skeleton, which I wanted to share with everybody today.
It doesn't happen very often.
Yeah. That is Grover Krantz. That is the story of Grover Krantz from beginning to end.
Wow.
Yes.
What a journey.
And he has made the strongest argument for the actual existence of Bigfoot and the explanation of what Bigfoot is, how Bigfoot got here, and has presented some of the most compelling evidence that is authenticated, right? It's more than just like a video and a story. He's like, here's the footprint, here's the bone structure, here's the fingerprint analysis. And he even says, I don't know what to make of this, but I think this footprint is real. And that's all he says. Something left this footprint.
Yeah.
What is it?
I love that. It's like extremely plausible.
Yes.
I have a final thing here, if that's all right.
Yeah.
I enjoyed that we kind of were in the past for a while and kind of talked about extinct animals. But I found a paleontologist who decided to take a stab at trying to figure out what future humans would look like.
Yeah. Grover Krantz was into that too.
Yeah. So this is a guy named Dougal Dixon. I think he's still alive. He's a Scottish paleontologist, geologist, educator, and author regarded as the founder of speculative evolution genre. So he wrote a couple books. I think they're mostly for children, kind of exploring what he thinks future humans would look like. And these images are so striking and so strange. A couple of them have actually become memes. I just kind of wanted to show you them and kind of get your reaction, if that's cool.
Let's do it.
All right. Here's the first one here. I don't know if you can see it.
What is that thing on him?
Yeah, so this is...
Which one's the human?
They both are. You can see there's more of them right here. This is called the host parasite. These are humanoid creatures that evolved into parasitic beings that feed on the excess fat of this larger creature. So this guy gives off excess fat, and then these guys climb on him to stay, like to get their food. I love his face.
The future sucks.
Yeah. Here we have another one here. This one became a meme. This image. This is Homo glycia fabrica.
Which one's the human?
Oh, both of them.
What?
Yeah. So this is kind of just speculative of like, you know, just in general. So this is what I have written is mostly about this guy. I think this is more of like the future human.
Okay.
But he became more ape-like in the future, and he has hooked toes that help him take down his prey. You can see he's kind of putting them in like his hooked toes and fingernails. I love this image so much. There's a lot of good memes of this image. Let's keep it rolling. This guy scares the shit out of me.
What happened to its head?
This is he kind of wanted to go into more engineered evolution.
Okay.
So if you see, there's a human head right here.
Okay.
So this is a engineered pack animal. This is supposedly an evolution evolved form of human that's biologically engineered when there's no longer sufficient oxygen to breathe. So they like kind of create these atmosphere creating head nozzles, and you know how they evolve through that. Really scary, really terrifying stuff. You got these are the hivers. I love this little baby. I don't know if you can see the little baby.
I see the baby.
This is what happened to my people. Never mind. This one I just thought was fucking scary. Like they have like mustaches.
I just don't understand this.
Yeah, he just kind of was having fun, being speculative of like human evolution. And then this is the last one. This one I just like, Slothmen. Like, you like their faces?
All right, but which one are we gonna become? I mean, we could only be one.
I personally feel like this one makes the most sense. Like something with some type of medical, like not medical, but like, you know, future tech.
Yeah, everybody's overweight and gross, and
Yeah.
they just use their Apple device to keep themselves alive.
Yeah.
That sounds about right.
Yeah, right. At the end of the day, that this is mostly just for fun, and none of this is kind of, I wouldn't say it's not based in fact, but it's like more of speculative. And I just wanted to show you those. I thought they were kind of interesting.
Yeah. Well, thank you. That's going to be sufficient nightmare fuel for me tonight, and for everybody watching. And I also believe that probably brings us to the end of today's episode. So I want to say a big thank you to everybody who joined us today. Hey, if you like this episode, make sure you subscribe and hit the notification on YouTube, because we are going to be bringing new episodes to you every single Saturday and new mailbag episodes every Wednesday. Hey, have you checked out our mailbag? Check it out. New episodes coming up every Wednesday where you, the viewer, can call us up and share your stories about all the strange and creepy stuff you've experienced out there in the world. And then Johnny and I will give you our take on it.
Yeah, and sometimes we just chat and have a good time.
Yeah, it's always fun. It's a nice little bite-sized, off-the-cup episode of the Mega Strange Podcast. And while you're doing all this stuff, be sure to follow us on Instagram at Mega Strange Podcast. We will be back next week on Saturday and Wednesday with new episodes. Until then, stay strange, everybody. Bye-bye.
Good night.
Hey, everybody, if you like this video, be sure to click on some more videos from the Mega Strange Podcast. We have tons of hotline episodes and tons of full-length episodes that are going to keep you entertained and scared. So stick around with us for a while. Watch some more videos.